taken. Hello, I'm Dominic Patten from Deadline Hollywood, and thank you so much for joining us for our Stella, Artois, Them That Follow panel today. Now, it's kind of a snake bite joke, but we have a monster panel today with the cast and the creatives, and it's fantastic. Now, you guys debuted already here at Sundance, right, my friend?
Sunday.
Tell us how it went, Mr. Producer.
Went gangbusters. We had a great time. Everybody was up in the air in terms of all the different moments that we had. It was a fantastic screening. We have a lot of intensity in this movie, and we hope that you all get a chance to see it.
Now, Bradley Gallo is one of the producers of this film. There's so many people here, and the film is, well, I don't want to give anything away, but I'm going to give a very, 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 very short summary of it. One of those, like, almost short as a tweet, though Walton will tell me it's wrong, I'm sure. It's wrong. But you know what? It doesn't matter, because it's Black Turtleneck Day today, right? That's right. You're almost in the black turtleneck. Almost. We're so close. Okay, so this, didn't get the tweet. So this is a film about a very religious community. And truly, it's one of those communities, and some of us have heard of them, and some of us have family members who actually are members of them, who are into one of those verses from the Bible that refers to taking a snake bite to prove your faith. Would that be a correct summation? And there is conflict, romance, love, and I would say some particularly good gun shooting on your part there, my friend, at one point. So, without further ado...
I missed him, right?
I think that was Jim's gun, though.
Yeah, but it was like a good miss. It was a really good miss, right? It was. I actually. Now, yeah, I don't want to give anything away, but I thought he got you at first. Yeah, definitely thought he got you at first. Now, how many people saw the movie?
Hello.
That's right. All right. Awesome, because now we don't have to worry about spoilers. I thought he shot your foot for sure, dude. I thought you were going to be limping, not running. Okay. So, Walton. If you don't mind, my friend, could you please introduce everyone who's with us today and give a little bit of a sense of what they do in the film?
Man, I have social anxiety. I can't even introduce myself in public. Okay, all right. Caitlin Deaver, whom I've known for a very long time on Justified. She plays Dilly.
You can applaud for Justified,
right?
yeah.
Dilly. Alice Englert, who is the star of our movie, she plays Mara, my daughter. Oh, I'm Walton Goggins. I play Lemuel Childs.
Hold on, an incredibly hard-ass preacher up in the mountains.
Thank you very much. I'll take that. Thank you. Daniel Savage and Brittany Poulton are writers and directors.
Yeah.
Right there. It hailed from their imagination. And
hold on a second. Well, if I'm correct, guys, this is your Sundance debut, correct?
Yes.
Sundance feature debut. That deserves a round of applause. It is so hard for people to get into festivals. It's so hard to get into a quality festival, and it's so great when a good film does. So congratulations, guys.
And then everybody, you guys got to jump in. You guys, Thomas Mann, Jim Gaffigan.
My name's Jim, and this is the weirdest thing I've ever done at this festival.
It's true. It is. And there's a scene with some hardware appliances that take it doubly weird. Yes.
Right. I have a lot of hardware. I don't know why I'm talking in the microphone.
Louis Pullman.
Louis Pullman, let him hear it, people.
Bradley Gallo, Louis Pullman.
Bradley Gallo,
Michael Helfand, and
Ellen Siegel.
Thank you. Producers.
Producer.
Yes. Now, Walton, you know, you and I have done a bunch of panels together. You're one of the best, man, and everybody knows it, right?
You're one of the best, man.
It's the Turtleneck Club, right? It's the Turtleneck Club.
Look,
but give
we
me
can leave,
give me a
you
sense
guys.
of what attracted you to this film and this particular role of this quote unquote hard ass preacher.
Well, you know, and I think I speak for all of us. You know, we all read a lot of scripts, and it's very rare that you get something that comes across your desk by, you know, first-time filmmakers. And whenever a story like this, you read it, first and foremost, you think, well, how did these people write this? And what they wrote was an opportunity to understand a community of people, these snake-handling kind of Pentecostal communities in this country that are often so deeply misunderstood and are maligned and ridiculed, really, and the butts of jokes. And as an artist, you know, whenever you get the opportunity, if you get the invitation to participate in a story that is about building bridges and building understanding. Even though you may disagree with the decisions that the characters kind of make in this story, at least your judgments are not coming from a place of fear, but hopefully they're coming from a place of empathy. And they wrote one of the most kind of authentic Appalachian kind of Southern Gothic kind of films that I've read, and I think I can speak for all of us when I say that we've all read in a very, very long time, and I couldn't believe that it existed in 2018. Yeah. And it's the truth.
No,
I
but
mean,
no,
that
but
genuinely
I
is.
think you're right.
That's the truth.
I think no, it's very true. And for people who've seen the film, I know you know this. You know, there is a lot of talk now about the kind of storytelling that's done on television as opposed to the storytelling that's done in films now. And as a TV critic, I'm totally for that. But I will say, when you see it in a film, you realize once again the beauty of cinema. And I think the beauty of cinema, and you guys I think have done an amazing job, and I think Walton's right, is this is a community that almost everybody makes fun of. I mean, even rednecks make fun of them. You know, it's like that. Like, oh, well, at least I'm not a snake handler.
I'm from Australia, so I had no idea you guys were all making so much fun of the snake handlers. Yeah, I'm like just really surprised.
Well,
Didn't know it was such a running joke. What's going on here?
They're also very controversial
Take it easy,
amongst
guys.
mainstream Christian communities. Theologically, there's concerns about whether it's considered a challenge to God. And so there's a lot of debate, even within that broader community, about the place and the legitimacy of this religious practice.
Exactly. And to that, I wanted to get a sense of, how did you guys research this? I mean, I'm going to assume you didn't handle any snakes. But how did you guys get into this topic and get into finding really what I thought was a really heartfelt understanding of a community?
Thank you so
And
much.
I'm sorry to say, you have to share the mic. So here.
Thank you so much. Dan and I started this journey together almost 6 years ago. So it was a long road here trying to get this film made, and we started in different places with it. I grew up in a religious home and community, and that wasn't easy for me. As we all sort of inch towards our identity beyond the cultures and families we're born into, that process, that transformation is hard enough. But I think that's especially true when you're growing up in a religious home, because the stakes for self-exploration are so much higher. Every decision you make, every need you try to satiate, you have to contend with the repercussions not only for yourself, but your soul. And that's a lot of pressure to put on a young person, and I was really interested in exploring that pressure in a story, particularly for a young woman and what it's like to come of age in such a narrow space. And
That's a very interesting way of referring to it, as a narrow space. What do you mean by that?
well, as Walton so elegantly explained, these communities have been mocked and maligned and persecuted, and they're very reclusive as a result. Most of them have pushed away in the hills of Appalachia, or Appalachia, depending on where you're from. And so they are set apart.
But aren't they? Just to kind of throw this in,
Yeah.
because you guys mentioned this earlier, that narrow space is because of conviction and a willingness to live your life in very narrow parameters, right? And that really kind of is a part of what you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's something really beautiful about that, and we explore that in the film. And there's also something really constraining about that. And everyone in our story, at least I hope so, has a different relationship and a different response to that space. And I think that that's what's so interesting about the characters, is watching them writhe against those constraints and come to define their life and their faith in their own terms, especially Mara, who's played so beautifully by Alice here.
Now, Alice does a great job. She does
Everybody.
And also, to that point, let's talk a little bit about Thomas's character, because Thomas's character is, for another, I guess the best way I can put it is, a doubter, to put it mildly. And, by the way, we should speak of She Who Is Not Among Us, which is another member of this amazing cast, is the Oscar-nominated Olivia Colman. Yeah. Who plays Jim's wife and Thomas's mother in the film. And
Yes.
Thomas, I mean, again, I don't think I'm giving anything away to talk about it. You are a member of this community who has strayed from the pack, so to speak.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely still a part of the community in the sense that he lives, still with everybody, but and still lives with his family. But I think as he's gotten older, he's realized this way of life is just not for him. He's kind of, like you said, he's a doubter. And so he's sort of made himself an outlier in this community. And it's a really interesting way for my character to start out because he just feels like an outcast. And so it was an interesting place for me to come from. I don't know. Yeah.
I mean, Dan, that part of when I was watching the film, that part and the relationships between the love interests and we should say there's an arranged marriage between you guys that's happening, right? And contrived, recommended. Yeah, that's the new phrase. Recommended marriages, right? And my grandmother would love that actually. But it's that having a character who is a doubter. I wanted to get a sense, or has strayed, as Thomas put. I wanted to get a sense. Why was that important to the script, and why did you set that up for dramatic tension?
I think it's a really great question, and I know that within all of us, there are big, scary questions about the universe, about our place in life, and even the most devout amongst us wrestle with doubt. There's an unknowability to the universe, and the answers we can never truly be certain of those answers. And to have a character like Augie, in a way I sort of saw myself in that character. I rejected religion at a very, very young age. I got in a lot of trouble at Sunday school. I'm sorry, Mom. It's an embarrassing story. I won't say it here. My father's a doctor. I learned things earlier than other people. All this to say, I was asked to leave. And so, that being said, I have an extraordinary amount of respect for people of faith and the serenity that they can walk through life with because of the answers that they have to those big, scary questions and those answers that I myself lack. And so for me, it was really just about inserting a character into this film, into this world, who shares the same anchor points as me, and who can also serve as a contrast and a foil to all of the very individual characters, each of whom has their own relationship to their faith, and each of whom is arriving to church on Sunday for their very own specific reasons.
I wanted to ask you, as you guys were working on the script, and you both have talked about here about your own family backgrounds and what have you. Were there elements of it that you felt conflicted about, and were there things that you decided? I mean, again, I'll say for people who've seen the film, people who haven't. There's some very graphic stuff in the film, and there's some very graphic stuff physically, and some very graphic stuff psychologically and emotionally. Very graphic, in fact. And secrets get revealed that will have an effect that will live on far past the end of the film in many ways. So for you guys, what did you decide was important to emphasize in telling the story, and were there elements that you decided to leave out?
That's a big question.
Good luck with that one.
Thanks, babe. That's a big question. I'll start with why we included what we included. Yeah. I suppose my answer has evolved. As I said earlier, we started this journey with this story almost 6 years ago, and that was before I had kids. I have 2 beautiful daughters, and Dilly and Mara were really my way into the story, and I was really exploring themes of my own adolescence.
Caitlin plays Dilly.
Yes, Caitlin. Dilly Pickett. And I was exploring themes of my own adolescence and things that, girls coming of age have to deal with, and how they deal with it based on the information and the knowledge and the reality that's shaped for them. And so we definitely deal with some really difficult subject matter because of that. But as my family grew, I came to connect and hold attention with the parents of the community in a much deeper way. And still watching the film and the decisions these parents are forced to make and the dilemmas that they confront, that was really important to me personally to get right and to really put them in that position and put their feet to the fire, because there's nothing harder as a parent than learning to trust yourself. And the sort of question we're asking all of our characters is, what do you do when what you know and what you feel come into conflict? And I really wanted to test each of the parents in this community. We wanted to test each of the parents in this community, and they all answer that question differently. And that's now what is my personal great achievement is that we pulled them through that journey, and I think quite sincerely, even though we absolutely put them in some really, really terrible circumstances, we did it with empathy and the greatest intention to explore this faith and push them to their limits, but without judgment.
Yeah. And I think the sort of central dilemma of the film that all of the characters go through that Britt alluded to is our loyalties to our faith, our loyalties to our family, and what happens when those two come into conflict. And they can, and all of our characters have to reconcile with that and state their priorities, and they do by the story's end.
I wanted to get a sense from Caitlin and from Alice and from Thomas and from Lewis. Your four characters, clearly the younger members of the community, and of course you two play sisters. How did Friends, sorry, my mistake. Friends. How did you, I'm trying to, so I was thinking ahead of my question, and I shouldn't do that, but I'm trying to think of, how did you guys, especially Alice, because you come from Australia, like this is, clearly there are Pentecostal communities all over the world, but the Pentecostal communities in this part of the United States are very distinct. I wanted to get a sense from all four of you how you researched and how you got into your characters for the film.
Well, yeah, I mean, in snake handling, despite the spread of Pentecostal churches, really is, I think, nearly exclusive to the American South. I read Salvation on Sand Mountain by Dennis Covington. It's amazing. It's a film in itself. If anyone likes or even doesn't like this film, you should still read the book because it's beautiful. It's that helped me so much and helped me understand the tone that they were going to use, which was one of curiosity. I also went to church, a Pentecostal church, with these guys. There weren't any snakes. There was some food because it was Pastor Appreciation Day the first time we went. And I'm not religious myself, but I find everything interesting. So I was also religion for me is just so much about people. I mean, that I don't know, it's amazing to look at it and in this way as well, so close up and intimate. Read Hillbilly Elegy as well and watched lots of stuff on Google.
Caitlin?
I have to say, I think growing up, I went to church every Sunday, so that part of it was familiar to me. But in terms of the snake handling thing, I think I talked to Britt and Dan a lot about what these communities are actually like. I watched a lot of videos online and read books because I feel like I had some sort of responsibility to know what it's like to really fall in love with this community and this religion, because Dilly is a sort of example of a person who is devoted to it.
Thomas?
Yeah, I mean, the characters, what I realized, I was learning to chop wood for this movie, and I'm like, oh my God, this character's life is so different day in and day out from my life. It was like, all day he's like really working.
Well, I mean, that's no, but that's one of the remarkable things about the movie. No, but Walton, you joke, but one of the things about the movie, except for a car and a few things like that, it's almost devoid of technology. I mean, there's the gas station, which you guys, Olivia and Jim's family own, but otherwise, there's none of this. There's not that's gone. It's just not even a part of their life, and it's very odd to watch something that isn't a specific genre type of thing, like a Game of Thrones or a superhero movie, where clearly those things aren't part of it. To watch something set in contemporary America and not see any of that. You notice it. It's so sudden, especially when your primary cast are young people.
Yeah. We're not texting. No, there's no texting.
No, how are you over there? No.
Yeah. There's no FaceTiming each other. But yeah, and then in that documentary that we watched, I think you guys sent it to me when we first met, and I was just there's such characters, and I'm like, but you don't want to make fun of them either. But it's hard to get that accent down. But we had a dialect coach that we worked with quite a bit, and that was really the majority of my research. I don't know.
Lewis?
Oh man, I had a lot of time to research this one. No, I actually got pulled on really last minute. I heard about this the day before I started shooting.
Oh my God.
But luckily I went to school in North Carolina, and I had a lot of friends.
Woo, North Carolina, yeah.
Love North Carolina. Woo! A lot of my buddies out there were from communities similar to this, and so I had experience living there, and it felt very familiar. And what kind of reached out to me was initially you worry that with a topic like this, it's going to be presented kind of like poverty porn, which is the worst.
Very well put, because that's what a lot of people do, unfortunately.
Yeah.
They really do.
Yeah, and so that's the fear going into it when you hear something, just the synopsis. Initially, I read the first 3 pages, and I was like, these people, whoever wrote this, know exactly what they're talking about and are going through it with such compassion. And I was like, I want to fly on this plane and get to this place.
Which would be these two fine people right here?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Jim, I wanted to get a sense from you. Some of the scenes with you and Olivia in the movie, especially towards the end, are so. I mean, the term heartbreaking is often, I feel, overused when people are talking about drama, but I can't think of another one, so I'm going there, right? It's heartbreaking to see what you guys are going through with your son and with your faith and with yourselves as a marriage. So wanted to get a sense from you what it was like working with Olivia and those scenes, and I know you know the ones I'm talking about towards the very end. There's just, that's a whole lot of love and family in one place.
Yeah, it was a really amazing journey to look at Olivia Colman and go, all right, we're going to discuss that we're going to struggle over our son dying or burning in hell. And,
lightweight topics.
Yes. And so, and also there's the backstory that my character had inadvertently saved her from some life that she kind of talks about it in the film. So it was but Olivia is, she's twice as amazing as you'd think she is. So it was a fun process, and it was also, I felt very comfortable with her immediately. It was not, like, it felt safe to have conversations. It wasn't one of those things where, oh, you want to do that? I didn't think we were going to do it like that. But the gravity, I mean, like on the second day of shooting, I don't want to give anything away. I'm like, I guess I can't. On the
movie's
second,
debuted, so, it's out there. Right?
Is it out there?
Yeah.
No,
Can't give away. But hold on. But
not everyone's seen it.
You can't give.
No serious.
But
here's
what I would say. Here's what I would say. As a father, I mean, I am a father. I'm not a good one, but as a father,
you are a father of many.
Yes, there is. What this couple had to go through is just so profound. And then there's physical things that we've made reference to that my character had to undertake, that it's just, and it was like the first day of work. It's like, hey, nice to meet you. Here you go. And it's like, here's Olivia Colman, here's Thomas Mann. Have yourself a good time. So I was like, okay. But it was an amazing, and it sounds corny, but this group is the type of people, like, we would drive back from set like an hour in a van, and it was like coming back from camp. Like, there is this kind of affection and affinity which in other situations I would hate. But these people are really authentic people. And also Olivia did not come in like, I'm going to be the Queen of England in my next job. She was like, nice to meet you, So it was amazing. And by the way, I will preface that by saying I generally don't like British people.
That clearly doesn't translate to Australians, though, does it? No, it's different. Yeah.
Fellow colonies.
Exactly. I wanted to talk to the three of you as producers and get a sense of Sundance is an amazing platform for independent film, and it can launch careers, it can launch whole studios in some cases. For the three of you, what was your reaction at the premiere, and what kind of feeling did you get? Because I was in the audience, and it was a good feeling.
Well, I have been in many, many screenings, and you watch the audience kind of be taken on this ride, and they get sucked in. It's kind of like, the snake crawling very slowly, and all of a sudden bites you on the neck.
Excellent analogy in this particular case.
And what was really wonderful was there were lines in the movie that when they were spoken, the audience reacted, and it was like you could just feel they were with us, and you could hear a pin drop for the last 15 minutes of the movie, and when the credits roll, I mean, as a filmmaker, and you love when an audience claps and responds and hoots the way they were hooting, and I couldn't be more proud to be involved with this movie.
I just want to say to Alice and Thomas, and without giving anything away, that very last scene with you guys, that was fantastic.
Fantastic.
I mean, it's
Cinema gold.
fantastic.
Amazing.
Where did you get that spaceship? You guys escaped?
No, I just also want to say that this team, this family, we did become a family. And I do want to acknowledge, in addition to Olivia, who's not here and was absolutely a wonderful part of the family, we have one other producing partner that was really integrally involved and was along the journey from the beginning, and that's Danielle Robinson, Alan Siegel's partner. She's an awesome lady, and she just wasn't feeling so well today, so she sends her love and regards. But this group, I will forever be indebted to this group because everyone...
Lock bathrooms and screenings and stuff? Yeah,
we do. So,
I think I've been to some of your screenings. You guys have?
we like to.
Yeah, just saying.
But I was just so thrilled and so happy with everybody sitting up here, and so proud to be part of this. It's an amazing thing in my life.
No, that's fantastic to hear. Because you don't, when you hear producers, especially people like you who are such veterans, Alan, to talk like that, that's what's one of the great things I think about Sundance, is that you can have a long career, you can have an esteemed career, but you can just have that project where you're like, yeah, but this is where my heart was. I get a real feeling that you guys are about this. Walton, I mean, to talk about that for a sec, you have played, obviously, we mentioned Justified, which is beloved and one of the greatest television shows ever made. And, well, it is. You can applaud for that, it's true. This role you play of the father is it's a hard role for any actor, I'm assuming, because it's I mean, I said it before, he's so hard-ass, and because again, I can't think of another word to describe a man who is so steadfast in his convictions of his faith that he will not deviate even to the point where it is destroying his life and his family's life. For you, how did you find that character as an actor? I'm fascinated because you were just there. You were so that guy. And having seen you in so many things, you know how it is. You see an actor in something, you're like, oh yeah, he's that guy, but he's Captain America, right? Like he's always going to be Captain America. You were no one else who you ever were. You were that guy.
Thank you very much for saying that. That's what's so great about. Am I here? Can you hear me? I don't even need this really. I kind of do. Okay, there we go. Sorry. What's so great about whenever you kind of make a movie, there are these stories. People have these stories and these kismet kind of moments that kind of come out in the press eventually. Because you talk about this movie over a lengthy period of time, something special will kind of come out. And this place where the church was, was actually with the woods. That whole kind of section there was like a Christian Bible camp, and it was a Bible camp whose attendance had been falling, and they desperately needed something to come along. They needed money, and it just so happened to be the place where these guys went, and we were able to help them while they helped us. And the very first time I got there and was walking through the woods, it was a sign. And it was very simple. It's a passage from the Bible, and it said, just be still and know that I am God. And for me, it was like, yeah, that's what we're doing. Whenever you say to this group of people that Jesus loves you, you turn yourself over to an imaginary set of circumstances. Jesus does love you. And that's what, from the very first time we sat down and really kind of talked about this movie, I said, this is going to be very personal to me, in the sense that I'm not there to affect saving people. Like, let's really save them. And this isn't coming from a place of patriarchal kind of society or fear mongering. This is coming from sincere, salient love. And that's what he has for his community. I genuinely believes, not from he's not a cult leader. I mean, this is we all, we grew up with this on whatever level and whatever faith. We all go back to the same text or a version of it, and this just happens to be their interpretation of it. And they gave me permission to and I felt safe with this group of people in order to have that experience, and what they wrote and the way that they wrote it and the way that this guy kind of modulated his experience, and the real fear of stepping out from those very narrow lines, that we would all perish, and that I would lose my daughter, or that they would lose their son. That's real, and that's real for people, man. That's real for people, and so I just really, I just wanted to honor that, and I've been very lucky over the course of my career. Like I played this transgender, and like back right when that was kind of coming, and the person that I was working with, it's like, I want to highlight that community. What's their struggle? Let's look at the world from their point of view. And the same, because I'm from the South and I'm poor from the South, and I didn't want to see my community be the butt of jokes anymore. So Boyd Crowder on Justified, it was very, very, very important to me to be the smartest man in the room. And the same with this story that these incredible writers and directors have written. It's like, see it, look at it, look at the world from their perspective. The way that I want people to look at the world from my like liberal Los Angeles ass perspective, but take the time to really understand this community of people and see the world the way that they see it. And that's what, that's where I just tried to come from. I was just very grateful to be invited to the party, really.
It was quite a party, my friend. Before we go today, we want to take some questions from you guys. So if you have a question, please put your hand up. I'm going to ask you this, and I'm going to be the hard-ass preacher. Ask a question. Do not make a statement. Questions happen in one word, in one sentence. There's not 14 of them. And please say who your question is for. But before we get to that, I have a question for the two of you, because Walton brought it up, and I want to mention it too. Is you guys co-wrote the script together, and you co-directed the movie together. What was that like, and how? I'm just always fascinated with that, from the Coen brothers to everything. I'm always wondering how people do that, right? Because we have the cult of the great one-man or one-woman director. So when two people are behind the camera like that, how do you guys divide duties, and how do you make decisions?
Well, I'll start by saying that this was a 6-year journey between Britt and I, and it was the very first screenplay that I wrote, the very first screenplay that Britt wrote, and we taught each other how to write, we taught ourselves how to write. And it was through our friendship, we encouraged each other to be brave, to take risks. And it was really, I believed in her more than I did myself. And so it was really through that strength of our friendship that I think we were able to finish this script. And over the very, very long years of getting this film to be here, we had already had so many of those creative conversations where by the time we stepped foot on set, it felt like we could read each other's minds.
And I just want to add also something that Dan and I talk about all the time is why we wanted to become filmmakers, and why we're doing this thing is because we want to work with people. We want to collaborate, and that is like the heart of our partnership is collaboration, and why we don't want to stay in a dark corner just writing. We want to connect our stories to an audience, and we want to do that with a team of artists and craftsmen and producers and partners that can bring that story to life. So, as we grew our partnership with all of these wonderful people, it just felt natural because of what we had been doing for the last 5 to 6 years.
Yeah, and I know some famous filmmaker says that, I'm not sure who, but says that making a movie is the sum of a million conversations, and so what is one extra conversation to that extraordinary number?
Thank you. Does anybody have a question? Right there.
Yeah, my question is, did you walk away with honoring and respecting the people that you
So who's your question for? Oh, well, can we just have it for one person? Because
I mean, I think you want to take that? I think did you walk away with? Did you feel honored and respecting the people that you represent, the communities, and
I honored and respected their conviction and their sincerity and the fact that they believe in something that strongly, maybe stronger than I've ever believed in anything. And when we went to the Pentecostal church, like, we saw evidence of that, and they were such a close-knit community. And yeah, and so I respected that aspect of it, but I'm not going to go pick up a snake. I don't know. Yeah. So.
all right, well, that'll be our statement. I'm not picking up a snake. Do we have more questions? I can't. Oh, yes.
It's playing today at 6:30 at the Redstone.
Sundance Film Festival.
Every single day, one showing.
Madame.
For the writers, did you have a cultural consultant? Did you get into the community and actually consult with anybody from the churches? And do they know about the film you're making? And then, sorry, one for the producers, the demographics.
Well, let's let them answer their question first. You did double up there, by the way. You did. That were 4 lines, 4 questions.
Britt and I were not from this culture, and so we took the burden of representation and that responsibility with the utmost of importance and sincerity. And the very first meeting, when we very first started discussing this project and what it could be, our very first conversation was about how we wanted to look at this community through an unbiased lens. You know, as Walton so eloquently said, they're much maligned, even persecuted by the state. And our goal was to take audiences on a journey of empathy and understanding, and to walk a mile in the shoes of people whose choices they may not agree with, but I believe by the film's end they understand.
He always speaks so beautifully. But what I will say is, we did a lot of research, and we watched a lot of documentaries and read a lot of books. But the truth is Dan and I are from our own small corners of the United States. I was born in Oakley, Idaho. I don't know if you all know where that is. If you do, that's pretty incredible. It's a very small town. My family's been there for generations. And I grew up mostly in Utah, another small corner, Winchester Hills. So I recognized myself in these people, and I drew a lot of inspiration from the people in my family as we were rendering these characters. And that's the whole point of this journey we've been on together, is that they're not so different from us. They're not so different from you. We're exploring family and faith and community, and those are all things that we can connect with as humans walking this planet.
She's even better spoken.
You're both incredibly well spoken. We're actually gonna have to wrap it up soon. We thank you guys so much for joining us. But before we go, well, that you get to have that. She loved it. But before we go, and Walton actually already did this, but one of the things that Stella Artois is doing is this weekend with these panels they've been doing with Deadline is we're recognizing moments in films, because we all have a moment from a film that we love that we always remember, and we maybe quote to our friends at nauseam or what have you. But it's interesting to get a sense of what that's like for people who are making films. I got a sense a little bit from that from Walton, and when people talk about it, we're doing hashtag Stella Moments, capital S, capital N. I wanted to get a sense from you, Alice. What was the moment during the making of this film that will always stick with you?
I think it was the moment when we were resetting to shoot one of the handling scenes, and I'd only done my first take with... Wait, is that spoiling? All right. Too late. I think it was the moment after I had handled the first time in the scene, and I was outside, and we were getting ready to reset, and I could still feel how it felt all over my body, and it was like a supernatural experience. I don't know, it was like, it doesn't feel like anything else that has ever touched you, because it's just this one, like, living muscle that is holding onto you and moving and feeling you in a way you could never feel yourself. It's just bizarre. So that will never go away. It was not like anything else ever. So,
That
yeah.
would be your moment. Thank you guys for sharing these moments with us, with the cast,
Thank
the
you.
creators, of Them That Follow. We'll be doing another panel at 3 o'clock with Fighting with My Family. Have a great rest of your Sundance. Thank you so much.